Hey guys, in this video I'll be doing a bit of an unorthodox comparison comparing two very well-known fitness guys, Greg Doucette and Mike Israetel. Now, I'm quite familiar with their content and do enjoy what they put out, however, I'm not too sure they like each other all that much. To set any differences aside, I'm going to be comparing their physiques to really see whose advice to listen to. Now, in all seriousness, there aren't all the mandatory poses in this comparison, nor one consistent version due to a lack of certain poses for Mike. Before we do get into the video though, a like and sub would really help out the channel since we are so close to 20k. With that all being said, let's get into this video comparison. Alright guys, here's the first shot, the front double, and in this one you can see that both are basically the same height. Greg does claim to be around 5'6.5". However, the height difference is negligible. The first thing that I notice is that Mike has a larger cranium than Greg, having twice the width, being twice of Greg's. In all seriousness, both pose similarly when it comes to the leg flare, showing off that hip flexor, the vacuums to accentuate the waist and taper, and comparable arm positioning. You can see that Greg has a far more favorable structure due to his longer limbs, which creates a better set of proportions overall. Although Mike does look denser due to his shorter, stubbier limbs, I feel as though his arms look significantly worse, not even considering the actual development. Looking at the overall size though, Mike keeps up with Greg in the biceps and triceps, has slightly worse lat flare and equal quad size, but lacks in the inner thigh mass. Something that is instantly recognizable and that differentiates these two when it comes to the caliber of competitor that they are, is the conditioning. Greg is twice as ripped in the quads and is bone shredded upstairs, whereas Mike has a film of water and looks to have missed his peak. All things considered, Mike is faring better than I thought he would, however he loses in the minute details and structure, costing him the pose. The side chest shows you that Mike has a considerable amount of size on Greg from the side, however, is it really quality muscle? Well, looking at his conditioning in detail compared to Greg, it is obvious that he isn't as dry, however, he also isn't as soft as he was from the front. Sure, Greg is winning in the brachialis separation and the hamstring definition, however, Mike dwarfs him in the chest thickness, side leg density, and surprisingly showcases more details in the glutes and side quad. Even Mike's midsection looks better than Greg's from a detail standpoint, as it's controlled and shows clean separation. I think that the size disparity is glaring enough and the conditioning difference isn't that different, to the point that Mike would probably win over the IFBB pro Greg Doucette. Here's the rear double, in which I unfortunately had to use a worse version for Mike due to there not being any available shots from his most recent show. While he's not inherently bad, the difference is instantly noticeable between him and Greg when looking at the conditioning. Look at how Greg's entire Christmas tree is striated and pronounced, and how he has cable cord hamstrings, and look at those arms and delts, they are just so dry and detailed. Although Mike has near identical size upstairs, better legs from a mass perspective, and potentially a wider, thicker back, the difference in conditioning is too much for the exercise expert, leading to a rather easy win for Greg. The rear lat spread is thankfully a shot from Mike's most recent best showing. However, we had to use an older, significantly better version of Greg for this one. One thing to point out for Mike is that he doesn't look substantially better in the lower body in terms of condition compared to the last pose. Greg, on the other hand, has more mass in the lower body, now presenting similar if not more size than Mike. The backs aren't even close when using this version of Greg, as while both may be similar in width, Greg is ridiculously peeled and defined everywhere. The angles are a bit off between the two, with Greg's lower body appearing larger due to the lower camera angle. However, I don't really think that it matters. He's dominating the back condition and smokes Mike in the glute and hamstrings. Definitely a win for Greg, while Mike is underwhelming at best. In the Aban Thigh, we have Greg who is hitting the shot to a T, while Mike is hitting it somewhere in between a most muscular and an Aban Thigh. I do like it though, as he's showcasing that arm and delt to the chest thickness, and the midsection looks solid as well. Both are actually very comparable when it comes to the abdominal development, however, Greg is drier and more separated in the obliques and serratus. Greg also has lower lat insertions, which leads to him having a more impressive V-taper, however, Mike looks wider across the clavicles and therefore might be wider overall. Quads-wise, there's no doubt that Greg is superior in the detail, especially in the deep, clean separation between each head of the quad. However, Mike, does have a larger teardrop and outer quad sweep. Ultimately though, Mike may fall short here as he's not that shapely, he isn't that conditioned, and his midsection is inferior. Greg has the shape, he has the details, and he has a far better core, leading to a win for him. The final pose, the most muscular, really shows you the difference between Greg's pinnacle top-of-the-line physique versus a much more amateur Mike. While the size disparity isn't that large, you can't deny that Greg's chest, delts, and arms all possess intricate details that Mike lacks. Greg also looks peaked to perfection, having a solid combination of fullness and dryness relative to Mike, who in contrast looks considerably soft. That being said, Mike is no slouch when it comes to the total size, being just as muscular upstairs and possibly even larger downstairs. However, he falls short in that razor-sharp condition. His upper body looks significantly less defined than his legs, creating this disproportionate spread of detail. In all honesty, almost all of Greg's stage physiques have been shredded to the bone, and even if this was his 2019 Classic Physique package, I still think that he would beat Mike due to conditioning. As it is now, I'd easily give Greg the win as he's fuller, drier, and twice as refined. Alright guys, that's it for this comparison. In short, I had Greg winning all but one pose, being the side chest, where Mike convincingly won due to mass. Overall though, Greg displayed similar size and muscularity, while simultaneously possessing stellar conditioning. Additionally, his shape and proportions were far better suited for professional bodybuilding, as there's really no denying that Mike doesn't necessarily have the best bodybuilding genetics. Anyways, do let me know in the comments what you thought of this comparison, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.